Metal guy here today. I'm having a chat with Cam Bird, musician, singer, songwriter, guitarist. He's also a guitar instructor as well, aren't you?
I am, mate. Yes.
Awesome. Cheers for making some time to have a chat with Crannk and myself, man. How you doing?
Dude, I'm really good. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've been looking forward to having a chat with you and trying this whole live stream thing, man. It's a first for me. Doing a bit of a chat this way, but I'm really excited for it. So bring it.
Yeah, me too. It just creates a little bit more interactivity, dude. So, anyone watching can kind of join in and have a little bit of a chat as well, man. Been diving into your career, man. Quite a prolific career there. You've had, been around for quite a while, dude. I want to dive right back to the start, man. I want to go through a little bit of Cam's journey, bro. So, first off, man, I want to ask kind of what music was going through your house when you were younger, dude.
Oh, dude,
what were your parents playing?
A range of stuff, man. So I grew up on like Hunters and Collectors, a great Aussie band, if you know him, Mark Seymour. He definitely shaped me as a songwriter and as a kind of musician. So one of their albums used to be on repeat, and that was their last ever live performance. It's called Under One Roof, and that was just like literally blaring in the car and at home all the time. So that was a big influence for me. Things like Mark Knopfler, Dire Straits, Sting was another one that was pretty big in my household. My old man loves stuff like Phantom of the Opera. So I grew up on that, like pretty much every Sunday, crank it on our big stereo system while he's doing his chores, and then some weird stuff thrown in there too, man. Like mum really loved Enya and went through an Enya stage. So I don't know how that comes out in my music. Maybe it's the kind of big ethereal stuff, who knows? So it was kind of stuff like that, man. It was, 70s, 80s, maybe a little bit in the 90s, not so much. I kind of got into that myself, but started around that. And then another one is Bryan Adams. Actually, that was a big one too. So yeah, man, heaps of different stuff, but it wasn't really metal. I definitely didn't have that much going on in the household, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, of course. That's kind of like my old girl, dude, when you were talking about the Sting and the Mark Knopfler and the Dire Straits, the Police and all that kind of stuff. And Tracy Chapman, I remember Tracy Chapman. I really enjoyed that a lot when I was younger. Phil Collins, dude, was probably a big one, no doubt, back then. But I was the same, man. My old girl kind of grew up on that and kind of went off a little bit as I got a bit older. How did that go into metal, man? When did you first get into the metal side of things?
I first heard Master of Puppets when I was maybe 13, I think, right? And this is like, the era of kind of Napster, right? So Napster and LimeWire were the thing. Illegal downloading was just becoming a big thing, and CD like stuff was starting to go out the window. So it was a really interesting time. And then I heard Master of Puppets on my desktop computer in my family living room. And dude, I was blown away. Literally, like, here I am with this like preconceived idea of what metal is, which is like bearded dudes in a dungeon, who are like all about worshipping Satan or something, right? Like as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old innocent kid. And I was literally like just absolutely blown away by how freaking cool it was. And then like the interlude came in, the sort of soft section, and I just never heard anything so amazing in my life. I was sitting there literally with my jaw dropped. So that's where metal came in for me, man. I literally was just like diehard Metallica throughout my teens. For a good 5 years, I barely listened to anything else, and I just learned it on the guitar and would play it at school, and I played through a bunch of different bands and was always just kind of bringing in, that influence. So that's where it started, and then it just got kind of, progressed and got heavier and heavier as I got a bit older, to be honest, man. So that's the journey.
Master of Puppets is a great album, dude. I think that was one of the first Metallica albums I got as well, and there was a little vote going the other day, and I'm like, I had to tick the Master of Puppets, man. That Cliff Burton with the bass on that, and just that album, man, it was the same for me. It was kind of one of the first forays into heavy metal. It's just a classic album, eh?
Yeah, and it's still that for me, man. It's just probably one of the most important metal albums out there, I think. Like,
Welcome Home.
Let alone Master of Puppets. Let alone Metallica, but like the whole genre, I think it really took a turn with that album.
Yeah.
For the just like that shaped multiple bands to come.
Yeah.
It still does today, I think, with like a lot of kind of thrash influence bands for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's cool, man. So you started playing guitar first, was it?
Yep. Yeah, I started playing guitar. My old man bought me an acoustic, right? So I came home from school one day, and my old man, who was usually working, like picked me up, and he was with Mum, and we had this Commodore station wagon at the time, like an old VP for all you Holden fans out there. And Dad's like, look in the back, right? So I climb into the back, and there's this big package there, and it was this acoustic guitar, and that was my first kind of instrument, if you like. So when I was about 10, and I absolutely sucked for a good couple of years at it. I wouldn't say guitar was one of those things that came to me initially. Yeah. It wasn't until like high school, I got thrown into music class, and then I was just like the dude with ADD, in the music room, like where they just couldn't stop me playing and making noise. I just loved it. And then it wasn't until probably about year 8, so when I was maybe 14, this is, I'm immersed in music, all this sort of stuff. I'm trying to play, trying to figure it out. And then I had this teacher come in who was a substitute teacher. And at school we had group classes. So usually there was maybe 4 or 5 of us. And I was like the worst one for, like most of it. This guy came in, everyone was sick this day. So the teacher and all of my classmates for this guitar session. And, this guy's like, oh, what's up? And I'm like, oh, hey, like, no one else is here. This is a bit weird. And he's like, oh, it's cool. We'll kind of figure it out. I'm like, well, I'm like the worst one out of, all the guys. And he's like, we'll change that. Right. And, this guy sat me down and he taught me my first scale. And after about 10 minutes learning this scale, we then just jammed for like a good hour together. And that was probably one of the like pinnacle moments for me where things just changed. He taught me how to create and how I could like, build stuff and like kind of unleash the artist part of me, which is just what I find most important. There are better players than me. There are, better musicians and instrumentalists and whatever out there than me, but I love creating, and that's what music is all about for me, is that expression, so yeah, man, that's me at the core. Yeah. And that's kind of how I evolved on the guitar. And then from there I was just hooked, man, like just couldn't put the thing down, and just every night I had a little looper pedal and was just creating sounds and like, creating lead guitar parts and like hearing all these chords and different scales, and see you later, like music grabbed hold of me from there, man. So
yeah, so how did it progress from there? So you're playing through high school and like in music class and that. What was your first band?
We had this rock band in high school, man, and so I was on the Metallica, train, and then I had a buddy of mine, his name's Sam. Him and I would just meet at lunchtimes and then go and play Metallica songs together. So we kind of made this like almost like Metallica cover band in high school. And I remember I tried to get on the mic one time and failed miserably. It's kind of funny, like 14, 15-year-old kids having fun. And then I got just more into it, dude. So I started to play in a couple of symphonies at school, and then all the different types of bands. So, we had symphonies, we had like a jazz band, like which was kind of like brass and, your traditional kind of like guitar, drums, all that stuff. It was super cool. Yep. And then, we just evolved with the rock band and the covers type thing throughout high school. And that was kind of it. And then after school, I, got into the scene and formed my own metal band for the first time. And started to play with some other boys and get a bit heavier, which was fun.
Yeah. Well, when did it start really getting serious? When were you like, okay, and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, man?
Man, it's been a journey, I tell you. Like, so for me, I kind of reached a crossroads in sort of mid to late high school. They sit you down as a kid and they're like, you see the career advisor and he tells you what you should do. I kind of made a bit of a detour, to be honest, man. Like I had pretty much everyone try and guide me towards like science and maths and all that stuff. And I ended up doing that. Yep. And music took a bit of a back seat around that time. And then I went off to uni and I studied mechanical engineering. And I should have kind of picked it earlier, man, because like pretty much throughout uni, I was just playing guitar all the time, right? Like, you know, I should have been studying, but I was playing guitar. And I got to the end of the uni, and then I was playing in bands as well, and kind of doing my thing, and we were out in the scene, and it was awesome, you know. And then I got working, and you know, realized I didn't really like that. And it's been a constant journey of like building up the music stuff. And it's only really recently I've sort of feel like I've kind of found my way back home fully with like taking on teaching and instructing and all those things. Like now, you know, doing the artist thing is very hard. You know, making a living from it is extremely difficult. That's why we need support. We need a scene. We need people. You've got to buy t-shirts, CDs. If you love the band, you've got to do it, because otherwise they can't make more, right? And they're making sacrifices to make music.
Exactly.
So yeah, man, like now I've kind of like figured out that like, well, I want to play guitar for the rest of my life. Like hands down, I do not care. And, you know, through a series of just bad jobs and like, you know, instances with people who just don't get it and, you know, get music and kind of that part of me, I'm just at a point now, man, where I just don't want to waste any more time doing that, you know? So I'm kind of all in, and I'm loving it. You know, I absolutely love it. I love helping other guys with their music. It keeps me sharp. I'm always learning new things and kind of revisiting my own journey. And then I'm able to create and continue to create, which is kind of, you know, the center of everything for me and what I truly love as a person.
I love that, dude, because that's great. And I've been listening to a lot of things. My sister's been doing a lot of motivation stuff. I've been hearing a lot of motivational speakers. I've been talking to a lot of people. I've reached that point in my life as well, and I think that's important for a lot of people to reach a point in their life. Somehow they reach a breaking point and they go, you know what, I'm going to chase my dreams. And not everyone does that in life, I suppose, reach that breaking point in life and go, okay, I'm going to do what I want to do. For me, I reached the same point, bro, about 3 years ago. I was 37 and, you know, I held anxiety, PTSD, major depression. You know, I love my kids. They're a great dad and everything, but you have these other things. And I'm like, you know what? Music has been this point in my life, has had this special impact in my life since I was young. You know what? I'm going to give back to the scene. And hence here I am, bro, kind of doing the same thing. It's funny how journeys are, man, talking to great musicians just like yourself with these stories, man, and everything kind of interconnects. And lately it's been about, you know, chasing your dreams and having a journey, man. That's just hit it for me right on the head, bro.
Yeah, and like you've used a really great kind of like phrase in there, man, like the breaking point thing. You got to have it. You just like, there's no way around it. And that, like, I feel like I was kind of almost avoiding it for a very long time. And that's where I feel you get things like depression and anxiety and that stuff building up inside. And music was kind of the thing that got me through a lot of that. You know, but like you've got to literally face that demon, like, and have that breaking point for yourself of like, well, because you can continue to live that way if that's what you want to do. If you want to, you know, kind of play it safe and kind of like squash it down and stuff like that. But honestly, you know, even for you with like supporting the scene and doing this sort of stuff, there has never been a better time for us to kind of be chasing our dreams and doing all that with what's available now with the internet and everything, man. Like, we didn't have this 10 years ago, right? Like Facebook was in its infancy back then. Look how much has changed, like just in the last couple of years, and what we're able to do, right? And sort of, you know, who we're able to reach now is pretty cool. It's not easy, but
no,
you know, I don't think there's ever been a better opportunity or time, you know, for guys like us to really make our mark and kind of build what we want.
exactly. And it's making it easier to connect as well, because gone are the times where you'd walk into a CD store and you'd just, oh yeah, pick out something from the album art, or you know what I mean? You'd have the top 10 metal bands or whatever, and if you want something else, you'd have to go to these smaller little metal stores or whatever in these niche little markets to chase them down. Now it's just everywhere, and it's just connecting with the right sort of niche. And I think exploring as well, just digging deeper and supporting the scene, just not, you know, taking what you're given at times as well.
100%. Yeah. Cause like, I think it used to be that way with like labels. It was used just force fed to you, you know, like listen to this cause we're paying for it. Right. It was kind of what a label was. a lot of that's gone now, and you know, it's like there's a whole massive world out there for any genre, for any niche inside of that genre. You can find so much amazing talent and so much amazing stuff, you know. But again, it comes back to that point of like, well, if you want to hear it and you want to keep doing that, you got to support it.
Support it.
Unfortunately, yeah, Spotify won't do it, right?
No.
Like they're paying like 2 cents a stream. Like, whoa, awesome, you know.
Yeah.
So like, I think the community thing is extremely important behind whatever it is, you know. Like it's just important not to lose touch with that now. That's more important than ever, I think, man.
Yeah, definitely. So, fast forward to 2016, Phoenix, man. Can you tell us a little bit about that EP, man? And kind of that's your, yeah.
Yeah. It was a fun time in my life, man. Like I went through a lot the year before. I kind of, had an experience where just shocking relationship and sort of personal stuff that led to me in a city that wasn't my home, like out of my ass, right? Like it was kind of the circumstance. So, I kind of came home from that and I was like, just with all of this energy of like, I don't want to go through something like that again. I need to put it into something and I need to start to kind of spread a positive message with music of like, you know, what we spoke about with what you went through. I was like, let's go. I want to chase my dreams. I want to show other people, you know, that they can do it as well. So very shakily, you know, I admit, like I jumped on the mic for the first time. I was in this phase of like, before it, I was just writing and I grabbed this Cole Clark acoustic guitar, you know, and I'd just sit with it almost every night. And that was the first time I started writing lyrics and, you know, thinking of like vocal melodies and stuff and how I kind of evolved into being a vocalist, if you like, and a singer.
Yep.
Man, I just went for it. I found a studio out here in Melbourne, 440 Studios. Jared, great guy in there. And he's like, this is cool. It's kind of like a grungy, like Soundgarden type vibe, you know? And I'm like, cool. Like, let's go for something like that. I've never done that before. Man. So we just spent a couple of days in there. I hired a bunch of session musicians and we just put it together and It was cool. It's like, you know, it's like I try and honor the stuff of like wherever I'm at in my journey. It's kind of hard. It's like looking into space because you're looking literally into the past and you can't change it. Right? It's like whatever's out there has happened. So at times as an artist, I'm like, oh, I might hear a bad note or something a bit out that I can nail now. And I'm like, like kind of hits me that way. But, you know, it was a very authentic expression of who I was at the time. And that's what I try and replicate with whatever I do and show people that it's okay to do that themselves with whatever they want to pursue. It's just wherever you're at, just put it out there, you know, who cares? Like,
just dive into it.
Exactly. Right. Like lean into it, get it done and just follow through, you know, and that's really what that EP was all about. At that stage in my life, man, was just, let's go, let's just do something. You know?
And it seemed like it would have had a good story behind it with the name Phoenix. I knew that would have something behind it. It's really cool. And then to follow on Flight, I suppose you kind of kept in the same vein, eh? You were flying up out of the ashes, dude, eh?
100%, man. So Phoenix was the rebirth and then Flight was kind of like starting to, you know, lift off and be like, all right, cool. Like this is the next part of the journey. So yeah, Flight was cool, man. It was a bit of an evolution.
Yeah.
There's still some very, very like kind of personal and intimate songs on that album for me. You know, the song Going Down in particular, we don't play that live very often just because it's a bit older now, but that was a song that like, you know, the depression, the anxiety, all that stuff we spoke about, that was my expression of all of that like crap and those feelings.
Yeah.
You know, was putting it into that song and man, I wrote that song and then like literally just like burst into tears afterwards. It was so cathartic for me.
Yeah.
Same thing happened in the studio when I got on the mic and sung it. It was just such a big release for me. You know, so yeah, it was a very special kind of EP, that one as well, of just, you know, all right, cool, I've been through all this, I've had the rebirth, now it's like, let's move forward and figure out who I am, like as an artist and, you know, what I want to do and say while I'm here, if that makes sense, man.
It does perfectly make sense. And listening through to these albums, like, and then going on to the Neutrality one, we'll speak about that in a sec. It does. It feels like this. It has this evolution. It takes you on with you, dude. Can you tell me a little bit about Neutrality?
Yeah, Neutrality was an interesting one. It's like I kind of wanted to reel things back in a way, right? Like, and I teamed up with a guy, Bobby, here in Melbourne, who we kind of connected online, and we were both like of a sort of entrepreneurial and almost Spartan mindset. Like, when I say Spartan, I don't mean being, kind of the big macho stuff. I mean, like, trying to execute something with as little as possible, right, was kind of the take. And that was like the philosophy that actually went into that EP. So him and I met and we kind of discussed this idea, and he's like, well, at the time he wanted to get more into production and everything and start to build up his own stuff. And I'm like, well, cool. I've got like all of these songs and I still want to get them out there and kind of, have that expression and be growing as an artist. So we teamed up, and that was kind of what we did with that one. Neutrality was, I feel like Phoenix and Flight were all about fire and getting out there and like, let's go.
Yep.
And Neutrality was kind of almost like a centering, if you like of sort of coming back to center a little bit and establishing myself a bit further, but also recognizing like kind of like lyrically darkness, like, and sort of like some of the darkness of the world, of the music industry, of like people in general and how they see things and view things. It was actually kind of understanding that more and expressing that a bit more. So it wasn't just the positive, hopeful, inspiration thing. The first two were. This one was kind of a bit more of a well-rounded acknowledgement of like, I don't know, life and where I was at the time, if that makes sense, man.
It does make sense, because your first two albums, you've gone through this emotional time, man. You've brought out your Phoenix, man, and you would have, had all these things you want to get out on paper, and you can feel that and see that, man. Hello, Punctoria, man. How you going? And we got Justin over there too. How you going, guys? You can see that evolution, man, into Beyond, man. That's the album I've listened to the most, man, because that grabbed me, man. The riff at Crust right through that album, man. There's so many different influences, man. Like, I'm sitting there last night and I'm like trying to pick your voice and to pick things, dude. These different inspirations and influences, as we we're talking about at the start, you can see that all through Beyond, and just your guitar chops, man, unreal, dude. Listening to your guitar licks, dude, I'm like, no, that dude definitely guitarist first, singer after, man. The singing is just unreal too, dude. But your guitar chops are just so good, man, and it complements everything, dude. It's really cool.
Yeah, thanks, man. Beyond was cool. It was kind of like I set up my home studio and I was like, all right, I want complete creative control with this one. I don't want to rely on other guys, on producers, on engineers. What the hell do I want to say? Not only as a guitarist or a singer, but like the full thing, right? Like, and it was about pushing myself, really. And that was half the title for Beyond itself. The second part was actually lyrically, it's a lot about death and about kind of the weight and gravity of death. And this ties back into me with where I was at of like, well, I've only got so long here. Like, what do I want to do and what I want to say while I'm here, And then, there was a couple of big sort of things in like my family, like, I had my grandma pass away and, some other stuff happened with like, my mum. And it was very much about like just the weight of death at the time, like in my life. And then it's just power, bro. It's like, look, some of us in life will be millionaires, some billionaires, some of us will have nothing. Some will be great artists. Some will be, whatever the hell it is, right? You feel called to do. You got to just do you while you're here, because we don't have that long. And at the end of the day, we all go out the same way. And, death is the great leveler, in my opinion. So that was kind of like, it was staring down the barrel of that, like as a vocalist, and just being like, man, well, how do I let this out, right? And that's why it was a heavier album as well. Like, just in general, the guitar work, the drums. I got back to some metal roots with that one, and then I started really screaming again and kind of of laying down the heavy vocals, because it was just trying to, express that where I was at that time.
Yeah, it would have been fun to rip down some heavier stuff. I've been having a little watch through your Facebook and teasing out a few more little heavy tracks, dude. I had to listen to the Devil's Hand as well. That came out February 21st. I'll put in some links for that track and everything else of yours up Bandcamp. I thoroughly recommend everyone get along and supporting the heck out of that, dude. Cool track, man. Can you tell me about that one?
Yeah, man. Devil's Hands was an interesting one. Like, I feel like this was a bit more of a crossover of like, the heaviness of Beyond and some of those metal influences coming back, and the like, my death metal sort of guitar chops, and like even some of the metalcore stuff with, the da-da-da-da-da-da-da, the sort of rhythms that went into that song. And vocally, I really wanted to kind of express like more the grunge side of me and actually try and put it over a heavy song. Right, which was something I didn't feel like I'd done as well and Beyond. I feel like I just went heavy, right? Like, and I was like, man, I wonder what it'd be like. Like, what would a track be like if Lane Staley from Alice in Chains, for example, or like, 90s Hetfield, when he was kind of going through his load and reload stage, if one of those guys jumped on the mic for a modern metal band, what would it sound like? And, that's what kind of came out of it, was like this almost mesh of like grunge and metal, which was really cool to explore, to be honest, man, because it's not really out there. I think I don't know many artists that have done that. So it was kind of a bit of a nod to a lot of different influences, and also a step further forward for me as an artist into like, okay, well, what can I do? What can I kind of like express and explore that hasn't been done yet?
Yep.
That was that song, bro.
Yeah, it must be really cool, man, to have this freedom to kind of just explore, and you're not locking yourself into any niche. I love that when artists do that, dude. It's cool when bands can bring out 20 albums of the same thing over and over again, but it's always great to see another artist evolve and just not cornering himself in this kind of one particular niche, man. That's obviously something you're setting out to do.
Definitely, and it's like, part of the benefit of being independent as a musician, which you can do nowadays. It's also, it's kind of a double-edged sword as well, man, because at times it's like, man, like I've got so many different ideas, and like, how do I do it? How do I execute this? Like, and sometimes I'm like, man, like, I don't know how to identify what this actually is, which makes it hard to communicate, to other people, like, hey, I've got this thing, or like market it, on Facebook or whatever, right? Like, so it's a bit of a double-edged kind of thing. And like, I'm grateful on one hand that, I don't have to be pigeonholed in. It's like, you look at a band like Lamb of God. I love Lamb of God, but I don't feel like they've done anything different since Ashes of the Wake, right? Like, they've kind of just done the same thing, and that's awesome. But I'd hate that, man. I just couldn't stand doing the same thing for 20 years. I get bored, with just who I am. So, it's kind of like, there's two parts to it, you know what I mean? It's like, how's this going to go? How's it going to be received? Is everyone who liked my last album going to absolutely hate this? Don't know. Right? So it's just part of like that part of me, man. I've just got to deal with it, I guess, and keep trying to figure
it out. Wait up, there we go. We just had a little bit of a jump there.
Yep, that's all good. I think we're back.
Cool. Yeah, we got Mike from Punktoria. He's just commenting, saying the grunge vibes were great on that. He's a mad punk fan. He does all the punk reviews for Crannk, Mike the Punk, and he runs Punktoria and does the Punk in Exiles, man. So he's he's just commenting with great vibes on that, man. He spotted that for sure.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Mike. Like, it's unfortunately, I feel like grunge is like massively unappreciated now. Just kids aren't into it, and they, man, I honestly think the 90s, like with some of those bands, like were just, it's such an amazing era, man. You go and listen to like a Pearl Jam album, and then think like those guys used to play a set with like Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots, Soundgarden, like, even the Peppers were kind of like kicking back then. it's like, man, like going to a festival or a show back in the early 90s must have just been like something else, I reckon, you know. So, and Pantera were kind of doing their thing too at the time, you know, let's not forget. Like, so.
Yeah, well, speaking of grunge, dude, I was a mad grunge Nirvana and Pearl Jam fan, man. Massive Nirvana, Pearl Jam fan. My walls were just stoked with like Nirvana posters and Pearl Jam posters, man.
Hell yeah.
Dude, were you the same, man?
Yeah, man. For me, it was Pearl Jam. Like Nirvana, like, of course. Like, how can you not like what they did, right? Like, they were just awesome. And then, like Pearl Jam, for me, the album 10 was still, it's just a masterpiece, right?
Yep.
It's just, it's an album I listen right through to and still get a kick out of. And then, what those bands did with the MTV Unplugged shows back then was just sick, right? Like I still love watching those things and putting them on, you know, when I'm doing my chores at home on a Sunday or something. Like, always get inspired by that for sure.
Yeah, I had the tape of the Nirvana one. The man is, I loved that, dude. That's showing my age now. And Pearl Jam, man, I remember getting up ready for high school and I'd play it for my little brother and we'd kind of rock out a little bit when he was small and that. So, mad Pearl Jam fan as well, dude. It's really cool watching Eddie's career unfold in the way he has, man. I love everything that dude's done.
Yeah, me too, brother. Yeah, for sure.
So what's next, man? What's the plans for Cam Bird, dude? So you're obviously working on some new material. So what's it go from here?
Definitely. Yeah, man. Like, I'm always kind of exploring who I am as an artist, you know, like just writing regularly. It's something I love doing. I've realistically got enough tracks for another album. And I'm pretty excited about, you know, what it is. For me, man, it's like, it's very hard to describe, but it's like the direction that I'm going is just a greater spectrum of like, you know, clean, softer softs, you know, more delicate parts, and then just heavier heavies, you know, and more extremes in the other direction as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like this one is going to be a bit more of a step forward and less of a look at like the past and like what's happened and, you know, different influences and experimenting with like different influences and sounds. And this one is just going to be like straight up, I don't know what I'm doing almost, right? And I'm just going for it, you know, and
just having fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exciting as an artist. Like, it might be terrible. Who knows, right? Like, hopefully not. But yeah, so I've got enough material there. You know, the lockdown situations just put a pretty big hole in the live industry. So that's hard at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, so we're just playing it by ear and figuring out when we can get back out playing. You know, like we did have plans to start to sort of get up north a little bit, you know, to Sydney, to Brisbane, and looking at extending out where we're playing as a band. You know, so I'll kind of assess that obviously when the time's right. And for now, I'm just going to pour, you know, heaps of energy into writing, into teaching and sort of helping other guys, you know, with their playing. And then I'm probably going to look a bit more into like streaming and sort of, you know, online concerts and things, because that seems to be actually like popping up and doing quite well. And it's, you know, hell, you know, brother, like we're doing this as almost a bit of an experiment today. Right?
I know.
Yeah, it's cool. So it's like, well, if I can do something like this, you know, and actually put on a half hour, an hour long set on Twitch, let's see how it goes, right? Like,
yeah. Well, a lot of musos are doing it, man. I know Zeke's doing it. Mike from Mike the Punk there from Punktoria, he was involved in some streaming stuff as well, streaming concerts recently. He's probably a good guy to ask as well. And so many people have been using this platform. It's a good way to reach fans. I know Ezekiel Ox, I've been seeing heaps of his stuff floating. He's been doing streams like One Hit Wonder ones and Bob Dylan ones as well. Looks really cool, man. It's definitely a way to go, eh? But all that being said, man, as we were saying before, support, bro. Like the best way to support you guys, where would we go?
Yeah, man. Well, look, you can obviously check out my stuff for free, you know, on like Spotify, on YouTube, all that. It's great. Doesn't really do much for us as artists, you know, so the best way to support us is just, grab a CD. I'll sign them for you. I flicked you one in the post earlier, man. It's a bit of a thank you. So you'll be getting that in the next couple of days. I've got t-shirts and like all that sort of stuff ready to go. And if you're going to buy music, if you're even going to buy like the downloads of the music, like get them through Bandcamp. Cause that's like, they give the greatest share to the artist, right? So yeah, it's a little bit old school, all of that, but like, even if you're asking, like, and I get this all the time, even if you're asking me for a cover and for me to do something like specific, like to any artist that you do that to, like chuck them a tip or something, right? Like, cause if like I had a request the other day for a guy to do like, Hero of the Day by Metallica, and I'll go hard at that, right? Like, awesome, bring it on. But, it's like artists, they don't work for free. We've got bills to pay. We've got our own mouths to feed. Some of us have families and stuff to support. So it's like, yeah, like just support them like you would anything else as well. So yeah, like if you guys want to check out my Bandcamp, if you're having trouble with links to buy anything or whatever, just message me and I'll help you out. It's kind of what I'm here to do. And then as well, I'm obviously growing my teaching business too. So if you know anyone that wants to learn guitar or wants to kind of improve their stuff, then I'm more than happy to have a chat and kind of jump on that way as well, because that's a big part of what I'm doing now as well.
Awesome. So I'm going to put links up for that. But what's your name for your teaching stuff? Is it just under your name as Cam Bird?
Yeah, man. So for pretty much everything, it's all on my website. So cambirdmusic.com.
Yep.
I've got a lesson section on there, which you can check out. There's also links to all my music on my website and all the different sites. The Bandcamp is just cambird.bandcamp.com. And you can jump on there, and that's actually probably the best way to get merch and stuff like that. Is it's just a bit easier for me doing it through that platform than through the old website. So yeah, those would be the two go-to links. And then for all you other guys, if you just want to check out my stuff, awesome. Jump on Spotify, YouTube. Throw us a follow, throw us a subscribe or whatever. And then I'm on all social media platforms, and I love to chat to everyone. It's about community. So hit me up. I'm always up for a chat, no matter what.
And that's the go. That's something you won't get with some of these other bigger bands. And I've constantly had this conversation about supporting the scene. The Aussie music scene is so good, whether it be, the heavy metal scene, the punk and the rock scene, which I'm totally love. But we've also got great musicians in the folk scene, everywhere, man. The scene's unreal here in Australia, and we have this big push for Australian made, and you probably noticed it recently with everything that's happened. It's not that same push for the art sector, and music is art. And I was watching it the other day, someone going on about artists and that, and I'm like, musicians are art too. Like, we need to have this conversation as well. Music is art and art is life, in my opinion.
Yep, I agree, man. It's like, for all you guys, just go try and go a day without listening to music. Like, yep. Try it. It's actually really hard. Like when you go into the gym, when they're back open, right? When you're driving in your car, like, whatever it is like, yeah, music's an integral part of kind of life, and it's an important part of what we do, So, yeah, man, I agree with you. I don't think the government currently is the best, for supporting artists and supporting just the music scene in general. I don't think they really value it, those guys. And it is what it is, Yep. But that's where we've got to come together stronger as a community and kind of, push back on that sort of stuff.
And as a scene, support each other, lift each other up, man, buy merch. And there's nothing like getting that fresh shirt in the mail like I did, or the CD, and, supporting your Aussie music and going, hey, man, I got CDs and, whatever else, dude. You know what I mean? It's what it's about. So, Cam, man, I'm going to let you to it. I know you got an appointment to get to soon, dude. So, big shout out before we go, man. Did you thank yous, last words, shout outs, bro?
Oh, man, it just goes to you. Thank you for doing this, brother.
That's a pleasure.
Yeah, like, it's just, I love what you're doing, man. You're obviously very passionate about just music and kind of supporting the scene and artists and stuff like that, man. And we can't do it without people like you. So thank you, brother. And then just shout outs to, the people that have stuck by me through the years, both in my personal life and then in my kind of like, music life as well. There's some pretty special people out there who I'm sure will watch this either now or later. So yeah, thank you guys. I can't do it without you. So yeah, massive love.
Awesome, Cam, legend. We'll sign out.